Hello, my name is Grian and welcome back to another furniture/inspiration Minecraft design video. Let's get straight into it, shall we? I have come up with as many chair, tables, desks, wall art and room design stuff as possible, hopefully to give you something to put in your Minecraft house. So, let's get started, shall we? So the first lot that I'm going to show you are a bunch of chairs, and there are a lot more chairs than this possible, but hopefully you'll get the idea. Now, obviously the most common one is this one. You can get them you see them pretty much everywhere, but you can put a door on the back to make it a high back. And then we've got pretty much every kind of chair going, usually with two signs on the side. This one has a spruce trapdoor followed by a pressure plate. This one is the OG chair just sitting on a scaffolding. And then we've even got an extinguished campfire that's also got a trapdoor and a spruce sign next to it. And then we've got various variations of this kind of thing all the way along, using a different base block. So for this one, we got a cauldron. For this one, we got the barrel, and this one actually just works on its own, just as a barrel. Then again, high back. And then we've got a load of scaffolding ones, some of which have a pressure plate on the top. The only downside of this one is if you stand on it, it does that. So it's not great for parkouring on. But we've got a few variations of this. All of them basically use signs, trapdoors, and then a base block. Hopefully this gives you some kind of inspiration, including this one, which is a bit weird. It uses a dragon egg, or even an anvil. You can get kind of creative depending on the shape that you want your chair to be. And this one, this one's quite an expensive one. That's a lot of iron to use on a chair. And then you can take it even simpler using a fence. Again, using more trapdoors. This one's quite nice. This would work quite well at a bar. This one might work well in like a barber's. This one actually uses a hopper as its base block there. And then you got simpler ones and even weird ones using the brewing stand. So hopefully there's at least one chair in there that you like the look of. There are a lot of them, but you can even make slightly bigger chairs. Now these tend to be 2 blocks wide instead of the sort of the small scale 1 block wide. And there's various ways that you can do this. This one uses trapdoors, obviously. This one uses a couple of blocks and some more stairs. If you place staircases like this, you end up with a really nice 1 block center, and then it looks like nice little arms either side. And then you've got different variations of this chair. So we've got a slightly bigger one with more stairs on the top. And then this one has a small indent in it as a little bit of a detail. This one is actually 3 blocks wide. So instead of having the small arms either side, you have slightly wider, and it depends on the situation and the context for each design. This one is a lower seat. Maybe you want a more sofa-like thing. Again, even more minimalist here. And then you can start getting even fancier with your designs depending on how detailed you want it to be. So those are pretty simple there. They're fairly square, fairly solid, but then we get into use of the upside down staircases, and then there's even a gap there. And you can start taking it even further with the trapdoors, even some walls, all that kind of thing. You can make a crazy chair if you want. And then combining these in different ways, you can get pretty creative and even make your way to a Game of Thrones style chair. Now, I don't know where this came from, but this is the kind of chair I would like to have in my meeting room. Maybe it could be a little bit bigger. So basically, you can make your chair as simple or elaborate as possible. But what I will say is sometimes less is more. Something to bear in mind when you're building in Minecraft. So next up, we've got a few different kinds of chairs. These are slightly different to the ones we've seen. They're slightly in context. So we've got a desk here, which you could actually use and have a book on. This is obviously a default chair. And then we've actually used a bed here with a footrest and a bunch of signs around it. I know it is technically a bed, but it doesn't take much of the imagination to see that as a chair as well. Moving on, we've got another desk design. This time, one of the other chairs. This is a scaffolding chair. The use of the cartography table in here is what makes this desk particularly nice, which means you are limited to the dark oak slab, but it does look really, really awesome. Moving on, there's another extinguished campfire. This one works a lot better if you want more of the rusticy feel to it. Moving on, we've got more like park benches. Again, these are just different variations of like the bigger versions of these over here. So once you kind of get the hang of these, it should be easy to develop them into slightly bigger versions. This is like a proper concrete park bench. You might see this in a city somewhere. It's got a bunch of staircases in various ways. I think that one looks actually quite nice. It's all about context. This wouldn't look particularly good in a forest, for example. And then finally, this is another modern park bench style thing, but it's a little bit more expensive because it uses 2 anvils and iron trap doors, but it does have something a bit more unique about it. So I have got lots of other things to show you other than just chairs. Moving on, we've got more of like a sofa setting here with a fire in the middle. Now, depending on if you use a normal fire or a campfire, you might set fire to your house. I've already had a few mess ups myself, but the main thing here is the use of the mushroom stem block and the use of beds here. The combination actually works really well as like a low modern sofa, and it's the same over here with the other mushroom block. Again, just using a slab around here. It's all very low. And we've got a pumpkin here. I'm not sure what the pumpkin's about, but the chair is the main thing here. Or you could, if you wanted to sort of vary your house a bit, have your chairs sunk into the ground like this, and then have like a modern fire here. Now, this would set fire to the carpet. I've got fire tick off, so you might want to use something else there. But something like this looks really, really cozy. And that's kind of it for like the more bigger sofas, like contextual units. But moving on, we've got a bunch of cat related things. Everyone knows I love my cats. I've got 2 cats of my own, and having one of these in your base, in your Minecraft base, actually makes it feel really homely. I know it's weird, and I know like the Minecraft cat doesn't do much. I mean, it scares off phantoms and stuff, but just having it chilling in your house, really, really cool. So we got like a normal cat bed here, and it's not as difficult to get them in this space as you might think. We got like a little cat bed sitting on scaffolding. This one's really cool, and my favorite one is this. This is a bunch of snow inside a spruce trapdoor crate, and they just look so cozy in here. Looks like they're all snuggled up. You can do that if you want a cat in the box, but I wouldn't recommend it. You can even do things like this. You could put this like on a wall somewhere and just have your cat sitting in it. It gives it the extra bit of detail that your house might need. And the same with this one. This one's just a staircase up to a little indent in the wall, somewhere that your cat might play. All of these really make a house feel more homely. So moving on, we've got a bunch of tables here. Now, it's actually kind of simple how tables work. I know that's a bit counterintuitive, but like basically it's 2 legs and a top on the top, just like every table ever. But maybe there's some in here that you hadn't considered. For example, like the anvil. I mean, this is a very strange one. It's very expensive. And you just put string and then a carpet on top. And this one is actually a little bit different to this one here. This one obviously just has a fence. It's just instead of anvils, it's a fence with string underneath. But the reason this one is special is because under normal circumstances, these fences would line up. But by mixing the nether brick with another kind of fence, they don't connect like they would. If I did this with all the same, it would end up looking like that, which isn't as clean, in my opinion, as this one here, where there's absolutely no connection on the legs. So this is quite a minute little table that might do you well. And it's, unless you're really looking, you're not going to notice the difference. So moving on, we've basically got the same table here, but with trapdoors on the top. Trapdoors are an amazing block. They're one of the best things added to the game in the different variations. Now, this one's quite interesting. This is literally just a bunch of stripped oak. Like, you could have this as an island in your kitchen, but what's cool about this one is that there is some item frames with some food in, and then if you put specifically a birch pressure plate on the top, it won't work with any other pressure plate. You can make it look like your food is sitting on a plate. Now, I put this on the table one just because it fit here the best, but this kind of thing gives your house the detail that will just make your friends go, oh, wow, that's awesome. How did you do that? And then you can say you watched a Grian video. I'm joking. And then we've got another simple table over here. This one just uses end rods and then carpet. Again, very simple. The benefit of this one is that it gives off light as well, but it's pretty vibrant, I must admit. We got a more simple table with a couple of upside down staircases linked together with some slabs. And then you can see these are just different variations of the same concept, different legs, and then a top on top as well. Scaffolding table. And then this one's a little bit more interesting just because it uses 2 layers of trapdoors instead of 1, which makes it seem like a lot thicker of a table. And I don't know, it just looks more solid in a way. So those are the tables. There's loads of ways of doing that, but hopefully that gives you some inspiration there. But we're going to move on to how to decorate your walls, or some inspiration for decorating your walls. Now, you've probably seen at least some of these on my other videos, but I try to put some of the best designs, some of the most useful designs together in a video so that you can decorate the inside of your house. So one of the simplest things you can do is simply a shelf like so. Any trapdoor would work, and then putting a pot on top with a plant in, excellent. A brilliant way to decorate your rooms is with lamps. Anything that gives off light will just give your room much brighter appearance. Obviously, it's giving off light. Again, I've gone expensive with the anvil. You could replace that with any block there, but it does work quite well with the end rods and the sea lantern. One of my favorite things is like a really simple freestanding bamboo shelf unit like this. You might expect to see this in somewhere like IKEA in real life. And then again, a pot on the top, absolutely brilliant. Another table design, this time using lecterns. You could simply replace that and you could have a lectern table, but this works particularly well up against a wall as a side table. And never underestimate the value of just adding a single painting to a wall. It can brighten up or give color to anything. Now, this one's interesting because the actual detailing is inside the wall itself. So you will need like an exterior wall here just to cover that up. But if you've got a secondary wall on the inside, maybe consider putting in some bookshelves and then covering that up like so. So it looks like you've got an actual bit of furniture there that's housing something. Obviously, we've got to do some trickery with the depth to make this work. Smaller units using trapdoors and doors work really well. Now, this one's great because it's actually functional as well. If you wanted a wardrobe like this, it's got barrels in, so you can actually use this to store stuff. Just because it looks good doesn't mean that it also can't be functional. And there's multiple ways of decorating this. Perhaps you could use something like that to get, obviously maybe in spruce, but it works really well. Another one of my personal favorites is this kind of stepped look, and again, integrating that block into the wall. I don't know, just it looks really cool. And then you can decorate this with a pot or even a pickle. Pickles, I mean, they look weird on their own, but like in context, I think it works quite well. So this is a slightly bulkier bit of furniture here. It is actually 2 blocks thick, but we've got the use of the trapdoors as shelves. We've got buttons to decorate the sides of it, and even a backside of a loom, which actually works really well because it looks like the books are missing from the bookshelf. And that's a really nice little detail that you could add to any piece of furniture in your house. Now, this one is my all-time favorite. I must have shown this 100 times before, but if you're new to the channel or you've just come across this video, this is my favorite. Dragon egg, one of the hardest things to get in the game, but if you plonk a quartz pillar on the top, you've got a 2-block lamp right there, and it looks absolutely amazing. It's one of my favorite things. I don't know why, it is just amazing. Next, we got a clock here. Now, this actually uses the new block of the bell underneath here, and it looks like a swinging pendulum, and it's got an actual clock at the top. So again, it's functional. I know that they're not always useful because you can always see the sun pretty much, but this sort of thing is really cool. You could even have a secret entrance behind here somehow. I never really thought that far ahead, but you could figure something out, maybe with a minecart behind it. But again, awesome if you wanted like a Batman-style cave under there. Moving on, we've got another piece of furniture. Again, I've shown this one before, but the whole thing here is with the spruce stairs, and then with the slab out here as well, and with the combination of the item frame, the anvil inside the item frame, and then the sign on top. It looks like a handle, and it looks really awesome as well. Again, I can't tell you how important the trapdoors are in most of these things for the extra level of detail. Now, this is one of the highlights of today's video because this is a Minecraft Atlas. Now, this is definitely more effort than it's worth, but if you want to really impress your friends, I mean, you don't have to do an actual model of the Earth like we did. Look, there's the UK. God save the Queen and all that. But look, you could have just normal maps of where you are now, like so. I mean, it doesn't have to be like, it could be like that. If you wanted a globe that looks like this video, then, I mean, you do you. But I think that an atlas does look really, really cool. But obviously, to make it takes an enormous amount of time. So moving on, we got another simple one here. This one is just using trapdoors, so it's a bit thinner. It is a little bit more compact, and this sort of thing works well because most people have really small houses, so smaller scale stuff like this works really well. And later on in the video, I'll show you a couple of like combinations, some examples of this inside a room, just in case you're not sure where you would use some of these. Next up, we've got the beds. We've got all different kinds of beds. Just like the chairs, we've got small beds and big beds. So we got the roll that you could just put on the floor. We've got the roll on top of some spruce stairs. And then we've got slightly bigger beds here with a few red wall blocks. Now, this is like an old school Minecraft bed, but we can do better than that now because we've got trapdoors. You could have a headboard like this, and the same as a normal bed, you could just put a sign at the end to have a little headboard. Makes it seem a bit more real life-ish. And then you've got beds encompassed in trapdoors. And then you've got a baby's cot. Now, obviously, there's no bed in here at all, but you've got a couple of white carpets. This works quite well. And then we've got all different kinds of beds. Now, this one, the only difference is that the carpet is actually on top of slime blocks, so you can bounce on it. I know that some people want to bounce on their beds. And then we've got some more simpler designs here as well. You can see that the same principles that went with those chairs applies to all of these. Now, this is one of the better ones here, where we've got some terracotta to make it seem like there's a duvet over the top that's got a pattern of it of some kind. Because, you know, some people don't have just plain red sheets. They might have something crazy and wacky like this with lots of swirls. And then pillows could be in the form of stacked snow like this, making it seem, again, more three-dimensional, a bit more realistic. You could go more complicated with some pistons here instead of a normal base block, but the carpets, the snow, all of these things, you can see the consistency and the logic of thinking here. And then you can even extend the pistons if you want like a crazy like memory foam style mattress type thing using prismarine slabs. It's up to you how crazy you want to go with your bed, but overall, you can see the consistency in this. So let's move on to some of the more interesting beds now. Now this one is a just slightly bigger version of one of these, but it is actually functional. If you right click here, you can see the bed underneath, and you can actually sleep in that if you need to. Although I do think you get trapped under there, but that could be a really cool way into a secret base. Different video. This is obviously a 4-poster bed. Now you can see the inspiration from some of the larger chairs coming in here. Basically, this is a big chair. You got the headboard here, and then it's linked up with a bunch of trapdoors. I think this one's probably one of my favorite bed designs here, and you could include the bed underneath just like we did there. I think it's, oh, there it is. I knew it was in there. I knew it was somewhere. But look, also, there's the mix of the concrete powder, the concrete, and the wool to make it seem a bit more textured, and the different layers of snow. So this design right here is a little bit more complicated. This is the sort of thing that will take your house to above and beyond the norm. So moving on, we're going back to a simpler time. Again, the bed is under there if you want something more functional. And you can see I've just used some bed posts here. These are just the legs of the bed. And moving on, we got another one. This is more like a modernish kind of bed where it's got the anchor here, and then it slowly gets smaller as you go out. So it goes from slab to trapdoor, and it's actually all covered in snow. So it actually looks really soft and comfortable, this bed. And then we've got a more interesting bunk bed here. So we've got actually a couple of beds, and this design is a little bit more complex. So I might look at it a bit closer in detail. So we've got a couple of things at the back here, and it's basically all made out of trapdoors. The frame is made out of trapdoors, apart from this bit, because you can't put ladders on trapdoors, so that's got to remain here. But it's a little bit more detailed with like the staircases. They are upside down and down here as well, so it gives a little bit more space, that tiny bit more space. So yeah, that's a really cool bunk bed you got there, and of course this one is actually functional. And I think it's the same story over here, but the difference is the bed is only up here, and then you've got a desk underneath. So some people that have smaller bedrooms, they typically have a bed like this to utilize the space a bit more. And instead of a ladder, there is a scaffolding here, but the color difference does make it does stand out a little bit. So there are some really cool bed designs here, but we've got to keep moving on because this video is starting to get pretty long. But there's like maybe 100 designs in this video, so that's awesome. Right, let's move on to some of the plants. Don't forget plants when you're decorating your house. Like, it makes such a big difference. Even in real life, having plants in your house, it just makes it feel more welcoming. So this is obviously a composter, but if you use some vegetation in here, if you get it to this stage here, it actually looks like there's a plant sitting in there. And using that, both for the tree version and for just the leaf version, is pretty cool. Now, this is the basis of all the plants that you are going to see ahead of you. We've got different base block here with the cauldron filled with water, and then another tree on top. We got podzol as our base block, then with some signs. And then we got a dead bush underneath. This is an awesome one because the clay pot underneath actually ends up looking much smaller, like a real tree. They tend to be a smaller stem. They don't have they don't just come out the ground like that. They typically have something here. So this looks really, really cool. And the two versions of that are in a pot or just in the ground. Of course, it has to be on sand though, because it is a dead bush. But that looks really cool because it really looks like the twigs are spreading out and holding the tree up. Another variation of the cauldron design. This is bamboo with a bunch of leaves on top. That's awesome as well, especially if you've got like a long garden that you want to decorate. These look like stems. And then we've got just potted plants. I did this a lot in Hermitcraft on my build-off base here. You could use trapdoors and then a bunch of flowers on top. And then don't forget to just do some gardens as well. I used this technique on when I was building my dream house. Just loads of the 2 tall high bushes along with some slabs in the front. Looks really, really cool. And then finally you've got things like I can't remember what they're called. But they're arches made out of vegetation. But they have a word. It's escaping me right now. These are really cool. This is a tree, obviously, but you use a fence instead of a full block to make it seem a bit more realistic. So plants that are a bit on the smaller side like this, they look a lot more natural if you sparsely decorate it with a bit of leaves like so. And the key here is not to spam it to make it too blocky, because that, again, it doesn't look right. But if you just have enough leaves to make it look like it's surrounded, it will do the trick. And then don't forget that you can actually use leaves in amongst your plants here as well if you wanted to create some kind of hedgerow. Okay, so that takes care of the vegetation. Do not forget it. It's very, very important when you're building in Minecraft. And that leaves us with some of the weirder ones that didn't really fit any category, so they're in the weird category. But they're still cool nonetheless. Again, one of my favorite things is the dragon egg. But did you know that you could hide a nether portal behind it just so the particles float around it, and then it looks more like a trophy and it looks more magical? That you can hear it there, but the noises of the portal are quite annoying. But again, this is like the details that people don't think about in their builds, but maybe you could add it if you want to display your dragon egg. Moving on, we have just basically the use of the fletching table as like an archery room. Maybe you've got a mansion and you don't know what to do with one of your rooms. Why not make an archery room? We actually are going to get a target block very, very soon, so this could end up being a real thing. I'm telling you, this could be really awesome, so bear this in mind for when the target block comes out. We have a larger version of a window. Obviously some people just have like a couple of blocks like this, but if you've got a larger house, consider using a fence and then a fence gate, and then you've got that nice grid pattern in there as well. And of course, you can make so many cool little robots in Minecraft using this. If you want a butler called Jim, this is your dude. This is your dude right here. He's just made out of an observer. All of them look like they've got faces. If you want him to be more surprised, oh, that came out a bit more high-pitched than I thought. Oh. Oh, man. Now that we've been over most of the designs, I've actually got a few examples of just rooms to show you how these might be used in sort of real terms. So we got a first room. This is a more modern room. Now there's obviously some things in here that only work in a room. If I had, for example, showed this room divider just over there, it wouldn't have looked very good. But in the context of a room, the divider looks awesome. And even this extractor fan, again, this is the sort of thing that you can use in a modern house. But look, we've got that chair from all the way over there. This works brilliantly in this scenario. And then we've got one of our chair designs and one of our table designs. All of that together looks really, really wonderful. And another thing to point out is the flooring here. We've got birch planks, obviously, but we've mixed it up. We've got a different block for the kitchen. Mixing and matching your floors and having different layers with the carpet, then the floor, then that, it helps separate the rooms. So it's something to keep in mind. So moving on, we've got a more wooden-based house. And again, take notice of the floor. We've got different things going on here. And this one actually includes a staircase. Staircases, obviously, you have to put them in your house somewhere if you've got a taller building. So maybe consider wrapping it around one of the bits of furniture that I showed you over there. This is the one with the loom in the with the back of it. And then here's some of the things like integrated into the wall. We've got a nice bookcase and then one of the lamps as well that helps give light. So one thing to mention with this room is actually the wall. We've got a nice base block and then a complementary one on top. This one is concrete powder. Concrete powder looks really cool as a wall design, but obviously if you wanted to change something, it will all fall down, so be careful with that one. We got one of our chair designs, and you can see that, yeah, so you might want to remove these if people are going to be jumping around here. I know when I'm playing Minecraft, I'm literally always just doing this. So something to bear in mind perhaps is remove those. And then we got another of our chair design. This is the 2 trapdoor thick one, but this time it's got something different in the middle to give it a bit of variation. So again, lots of the designs. Oh, and there's a plant over there as well. Mixing, matching, put it all together. This is what you can come up with. So here is literally a room made up of everything we've seen there. There's nothing really unique except for perhaps the lighting in the ceiling. Again, that's something to bear in mind. Your floor, your walls, your ceiling are as much a part of the room as the stuff you put in it. We got that bed design here with the terracotta. We've got the freestanding scaffolding shelf unit. We've got shelves up here. We've got the step thing, and this is different background in each of them. But all of these together, it just works really, really well. So if you've got a small bedroom like this, something like that would work really, really well. So you can mix and match any of these together, and they should fit quite nicely. And then finally, we've got more of a living room. We've got one of our chair designs, another one of the tables. And then we got some plants and stuff here as well. But it's all about how you integrate all of the things. So remember, floor, ceiling, and walls are just as important as the table, the chairs, and everything else. So hopefully this has given you a bunch of inspiration for building in Minecraft. Sorry it took so long. I was not dawdling. I was trying to go as fast as possible because it doesn't take a genius to work out that this is a barrel with 2 trapdoors. But hopefully there's something in this video. Okay, maybe that chair might be hard to copy. But hopefully there's something here for you, and hopefully you got something out of it. I've got to say, if you're at this point of the video, thank you so much for watching. It really, really means a lot. And a big thank you to PearlescentMoon and Benjamin, who helped me put some of the designs for this video together. And if you enjoy this kind of video in particular, with inspiration, designs, and that kind of thing, I would love to make some more. So please let me know in the comments below. There are plenty of design, almost infinite designs that can be made. Here, there are some repeats from old videos, but I think I've presented them a little bit better in this one. So again, thank you very much for watching, and goodbye.